What's up, YouTube people? I'm back. As promised, I'm making a few more videos of this engine. This is the 5.3, the LM7 that I've been working on. I made a few other videos about this truck that it's going in. It's a 1991 Silverado truck, and this is a 5.3 out of a 2000 or 1999 Silverado or 2000 Silverado, whatever it is. It's the LM7 motor that I've converted over to carbureted, and it's getting ready to go in the truck. Been waiting on these last couple parts to come in, and they are here. So I figured I'd make a quick video of the review of this clutch, kind of what I think, and then also of this transmission. So this is a T56 transmission. It came out of a 2000 Firebird, so an F-body Firebird. Bell housing sitting over there and stuff. And yeah, I was going to show you guys kind of how it mounts up and what you guys will need to do and kind of what to look out for. So hope you guys enjoy the video. If you guys have any questions, leave me some comments. But yeah, we'll get to it. All right, guys, so first thing, I kind of wanted to review this clutch a little bit. This is a Monster Stage 3 clutch. It's supposedly good for up to 700 rear wheel horsepower or torque. I've never used Monster clutches before, so I kind of figured I'd give them a try. I've heard a lot of good things on them about them online. But yeah, I guess I'd kind of give you guys my opinion on it. So far, I honestly am not super impressed kind of with what I'm seeing. You know, I ordered this, I think it was about 10 or 12 days ago. And it's been a hassle, honestly, with them on the phone. And I ordered it from Tick Performance, who ordered it through Monster. And there was a loss in translation somewhere, and it took them forever to get the clutch. But it's finally here. You know, we had some phone calls and stuff to get everything lined out to get it here. But it finally made it. And honestly, I'm not super impressed with a lot of the stuff. But hey, you guys decide what you guys want to do for the setup you guys got going on. I figure I'll throw it in there, and if it grenades itself, I don't know, I'll go with a different clutch, maybe a twin disc from a different company or something. But so this is what you guys are going to need to do this swap. First thing you're going to need is the slave cylinder. As you guys can see in this T56, this slave cylinder goes right on here just like this. Pretty self-explanatory. I'll show you guys kind of how to install that. It's no big deal. Second thing you guys are going to want to make sure you guys have is the dowel pins going into the transmission from the bell housing to line it up. The other thing you guys are going to do is you can see I installed here, is new dowel pins going from the engine to the transmission. I got these from Summit. They're $4 for an LS engine, and they fit perfect. The bell housing fits on there flush the way they're supposed to be, and it works great. The next thing you guys are going to need, decide whether you want to throw out bearing or throw out bushing. I went with the bearing. A lot of guys say if they go bad, they'll chew up the input shaft on your transmission. I figured this is what most guys use for these T56s, so that's what I'll go with. You know, it might not be a bad idea to order a spare bushing. I think they're 10 to 15 bucks, and you could have it laying around just in case. Also with this kit comes an alignment tool. That's going to be really come in handy. I'll show you guys that later. Yeah, so a few things about this clutch. I ordered this. As you guys can see, it comes with alignment dowels, and they're supposed to fit real snug. The holes they're supposed to go into are these holes right here. This one, I believe it's that one, and this one. These big holes are for a different, those are for your bolts, but there's a few other alignment holes like that one and that one that are smaller and larger that don't fit the dowels they send you, as you can see. These dowels are not supposed to be able to pull in and out of here like this. You're supposed to pound them on. So I called Monster, and they said, well, just don't use the dowel pins. They said their machine shop must have got it wrong or something, or they don't know what happened. So he said the dowel pins are used to align it up, so don't use the dowel pins. Because as you guys can see, if I use these dowel pins the way they are, they're going to fall out and probably break something in the transmission. They're really, really loose, and they're supposed to be hammered in there. That's kind of the first bad thing I noticed about this setup as soon as I got it. Second bad thing, I started looking at the pressure plate, and you know, looks okay when you first look at it. Everything looks pretty good. But as you guys can see, there's, well, you can't really see because of the light. Sorry about that, the video cut out for a second. But as you guys can see, it's covered in this kind of green fuzzy crap. I don't know if you guys can really see it from the lights. You guys can kind of see it there. It's all fuzzy. Don't know what it is. It looks like Scotch-Brite, green, fuzzy, and I'm gonna have to clean it good to get that all off of there. Other thing, obviously, I mean, there's green paint on the pressure plate, and it is in the area where the clutch plate would go. So that's eventually gonna get on your clutch, probably gonna melt on there and might cause some issues. So just a few small things I'm just not impressed with. I mean, right away the dowel pins don't work, and when I called them to ask them about, hey, what should I do? They said, well, we can send you some more, you can just not use them. But I can't afford to wait another 10 days like it took for me to get this in to get a couple dowel pins from them. So I'm gonna go without it. I'm gonna leave them in there for now, install it, put the bolts in, and then pull them out so they don't fall out in the transmission. I'm also gonna clean this extremely well and make sure and get all this crap out of here so it doesn't cause any problems with any bearings. Any kind of fuzzy stuff like that, Scotch-Brite crap, is a bearing killer. And if it gets up here into the pilot bearing, it will eat your pilot bearing and you'll have problems. It might damage your input shaft or something else. So, you know, just clean your stuff up really good. Whenever you're cleaning up stuff like this, non-chlorinated bleach, or I'm sorry, non-chlorinated brake parts cleaner, no chlorination. I don't know why I said bleach, but non-chlorinated is the way to go. That'll clean this stuff up without damaging anything. So yeah, I'll go ahead and get this stuff cleaned up, and I'll start the install, and I'll show you how this transmission bolts up to the 5.3, and who knows, we might even get this thing slapped in here tonight. So I'll keep you guys up to date. All right, guys. So first step. Before you have any of this stuff, you know, covered up by other things, what you're going to want to do, obviously, if you don't have your dowel pins, put those in. Second, clean out all your bolt holes. So spray them out with brake cleaner, blow them out with compressed air, wipe them off with a rag, whatever. Just try and get them as clean as you can, because those will need to have some Loctite in them later. You know, just try and make sure that whole surface is good. You know, make sure this surface here is pretty clean. It's got a little bit of surface rust on this one. I hit it lightly with a little bit of sandpaper, but you know, I think it's fine. Next thing you're gonna do is install your pilot bearing or bushing, whatever you decide. So I'm just using a you know, a race driver with the small little thing. It goes right in there, no problem. I took the bolt out of it because the bolt was actually hitting on the bearing here, and I didn't want to do that, so just no bolt on it and just goes right in there. So I'll pound that in, and then I'll show you guys what to do. Unfortunately, I don't have somebody to film for me, so I'll have to do this stuff and then keep filming after I'm done. All right, so got that thing in there to where it pretty much sits flush. You know, you're gonna want to make sure that thing's in there all the way, or else it might hit your drive shaft. It looks like to me, you know, if that thing doesn't sit in there all the way, it's gonna hit those splines. You know, just be careful knocking it in there so you don't deform it or break it or bend it or whatever. You know, I used a soft hammer on it, not a metal hammer, but like a rubber one. And got that thing in there. Next thing you're gonna want to do, if you are doing a T56 and a 5.3 and anything other than an F body or anything like that, obviously they don't make slave cylinders for that. So you're gonna have to come up with how are you gonna attach your clutch. Well, Summit Racing sells these AN adapters for this slave cylinder. So I already got it started so you guys can see it, but there's that little pin in there, that little cotter pin or whatever it is, and you can pop that out of there, take a center punch just bigger than the size of that hole, or just smaller than the size of that hole, and pop that thing out of there, and then you can replace it with this, and that will allow you to run a AN line from your master cylinder all the way down to whatever length you need it down to your T56. So I'll go ahead and do that on the slave, and then we'll put the slave on there and we'll keep going. All right, as you can see there's the pin. There's the old one, there's the new one. To get the pin out the rest of the way, these obviously don't work because they get bigger, so I use the end of a little tiny screwdriver, just tap it out lightly. Just be careful not to damage it really or anything, so I have to reuse it. There's some lube or gel or sealant or something on the end of that, so you might want to take some of that and put it on the new one and then stick it right in there and put your pin back in. Those pins go in this way, and then to knock them out, you'd knock them out that direction, okay? And that will get it out, and also install it that same direction because those pins taper a little bit. So yeah, I'll go ahead and put that thing back in there, and we'll put the slave cylinder on. All right, next thing you got to do, tighten the throw out bearing bolts right here. There's two of them. Slave cylinder, whatever you want to call it, bolts. I read online 71 inch-pounds, which is right around 6 foot-pounds, or maybe 70 inch-pounds, which is right around 6 foot-pounds. I'm going to put a little bit of blue Loctite on these, not the red, but you guys, I mean, I don't recommend or haven't heard anyone recommend to do that, but that's just kind of what I like to do. A little bit of blue Loctite on there to make sure they don't vibrate out. You know, get it up to 72 inch-pounds, and then, or 6 foot-pounds, whatever. If you don't have a torque wrench, it goes that low. You know, just snug, don't strip them out. Just make sure they're, you know, not going to vibrate out or anything. You should be good to go. All right, guys, another thing you might want to think about after you get this is if you're going this route and you're putting an AN fitting in here, it's going to be almost impossible to get a wrench on here to put your braided hose line in there after this is installed and the bell housing's on here, or it's on the engine or whatever. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my braided hose line, I'm going to attach my AN fitting, and I'm going to wrap my braided hose line up here and leave it up here when I install this whole thing, so that when it's good to go, I'll just run that up to the clutch and I'll cut it to the correct length, and then I'll plumb it in and it'll be fine. Another thing you might want to do is think about bleeding this thing is go ahead and crack this open while it's open. That's a lot more accessible than that. So if you forget that, that's not a big deal to do later. But I'm going to go ahead and do this. There's lots of videos online on how to do that, so I'm not going to show that. But here's my clutch line and my AN fittings. So I'll go ahead and I'll do that, and then I'll keep filming after that. All right, so there that is. Got my AN fitting on there and my hoses, you know, obviously in that fitting. And then I got the spare up there so I can cut it and attach it to the master cylinder later. Next thing, always a good idea, ART bolts for everything. Here are the part numbers you guys will need if you guys are doing this on a 5.3. Those are for the pressure plate and those are for the flywheel. I'm not going to use assembly lube. I do like the stuff for ARP head bolts and whatnot, like those right there, you know. But I'm going to use Loctite, red Loctite on these. Like I said, make sure all your bolt holes are clean. Make sure there's no debris in them. Clean them out with brake cleaner, like I showed you guys earlier, the non-chlorinated stuff, and then blow them out with compressed air and make sure they're dry, and you should be good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and we'll keep on going. All right, give the back side of the flywheel a good clean down with some brake cleaner and a rag. Get your bolts ready. Like I said, don't be afraid of the red Loctite. It's all good. And we're going to put that in there. You can't really get this wrong. It has those 3 holes there. It's got 3 holes there, right there. So pretty self-explanatory on how to put that on, and it should bolt right up. All right, got it up there. You're going to want to torque these in sequence. Monster or whoever you get your clutch from should have a torque sequence for you. Should go in step something like 15, 37, 74, I believe is what this one is. You know, so you just torque them in whatever sequence they tell you to do, and then you should be good to go. Make sure that it's sitting flush on there. Make sure to look for any obvious defects. Make sure it hits the starter right. You know, all that good stuff, and you should be good to go. All right, so we got these all torqued down, Loctited it up, and double checked, and everything's good. So now we're gonna move on, you know, clean that off with brake cleaner again. Got everything off of it. To the dowel pins. Obviously, your dowel pin should not slide in like that. You shouldn't do that. So this is where I called Monster earlier and kind of see. The other thing I noticed was where they are supposed to go in here, where they line up, they won't go through. They'll go through 2, I think, out of the 3 holes. They go through that one, and it goes through that one. It won't go through the 3rd one it's supposed to go through. Not sure what the deal with that with Monster is. It's supposed to line up with those, and it doesn't. So, like I said, 2 of them work. The other one doesn't, so that creates another challenge. I guess I'll only be able to use 2 to line it up. I'm going to pull these out anyway, like I said, once I get the bolts in, but that makes it just a little bit harder. So if your flywheel, bolts are doing that, your aligning dowel pins are doing that, call Monster and see what they want you to do. I'm just not going to use them. They're just to line it up before you get the bolts in, but I'll center it all and everything, and I don't know, we'll see what happens. But so yeah, check that out before you do this, and also clean off your pressure plate with rag and brake cleaner, same way you did the flywheel. Make sure it's really clean and you should be good to go. All right, guys, so ran into a couple problems. While installing this clutch, as you guys remember, these dowel pins here and here and here don't line up. I can't get them in there, I can't get them to work. Also, it seems like these bolt holes won't work. For some reason, I cannot get these things. They look perfectly lined up. These bolts just will not thread into them. I don't know what the deal is. When I pull the clutch off of there, the bolts thread into the flywheel. So I know that, they're right and whatever else. I checked all that. I'm about to pull it down just to double check it. But yeah, for some reason this clutch, it's just like it's not made right or something. So if you guys are thinking about getting a clutch, I'm gonna have to try and figure out what to do here. If you guys are thinking about getting a clutch, I might not recommend Monster, honestly. A lot of guys on the forums and stuff say they're great. Maybe they are, and maybe this is just a bad deal, but it seems like from the get-go this setup just hasn't worked. So I don't know what the deal is. It's getting really late and I'm kind of getting tired of trying to fiddle with it, and I don't want to strip anything out. So, and I can't get it to line up. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I might have to call them or something, or I don't know. But anyway, I'll keep going and I'll keep making videos. If I don't get this figured out tonight, I'll keep doing it as soon as I do. But yeah, we'll go from there. All right, well, I kept at it and I ended up getting it all torqued down to where it needed to be, up to 52 foot-pounds. You do it in the steps that are in the instructions. For some reason that bolt there seemed like it was not drilled out maybe a little bit properly or something. So it was kind of throwing the rest of it off, but I got it figured out and it's even lined up pretty good. You can pull that in and out and see the pilot bearing in there. So it seems like it's lined up. If I had to do that under a truck or under a car, I'd be pretty pissed. So if you guys are going to do that, make sure you get the dowel pins and make sure you get the right ones and the ones that work, because having to align it, holding it, especially by yourself or something, you're probably not going to be able to do it under a car. It was difficult even out of the car on a stand. So make sure you get the dowel pins and that they work, and that'll help you guys out a lot. So I'm putting on the bell housing bolts. Like I said, I got the clutch all torqued up. Everything's good to go there. All Loctited up and everything. Remember those dowel pins I was telling you about that pound in? You can kind of see it right there. The alignment, the LS alignment dowel pins that I got from Summit. One thing you need to check is make sure those are pounded in far enough so they don't bottom out in the bell housing. If it does, you'll have a gap that looks something like that. That will misalign your input shaft that goes into your clutch, and it will cause big issues. You'll have a sideways torque on your input housing and you'll have issues. So make sure that you can tap on it and then it closes up nice and tight on both sides like that. And then you should be good to go ahead and torque it down. And torque down 37 foot-pounds, red Loctite on all these bolts. I have arc bolts for these as well. And yeah, you should be good to go. Then after that, you can bolt up the transmission to the bell housing and then put it in the truck if everything else goes well. So yeah, just make sure it's lined up, because that'll be a transmission killer if it's not. All right, guys, so I ran out of time last night, so it's the next day. As you can see, I came in here and slapped this transmission on. This was a pain in the butt to get on here. Yeah, I don't know what the deal was, but I couldn't get it lined up. So make sure you guys have a transmission jack. That'll help it. But yeah, as you can see, the T56 bell housing, T56 transmission lines right up. No problem with the 5.3. I have some adapter plates on there for this Silverado. That's another thing you guys are going to need. You can see the starter for the 5.3 goes right in there, no problem. All works pretty good. As far as this goes, I torqued both of these bolts. This one here, I put the bell housing on first. 37 foot-pounds, red Loctite. Then I pulled these. I slid the transmission onto that and tightened these bolts down 37 foot-pounds with red Loctite. Same thing. This is what we installed last night. Your clutch line, and I'm just going to leave it zip tied up there until I need to cut it and tie it in and plumb it to the master cylinder there. So I'm gonna go ahead and start wiggling this thing in here. Like I said today, I'm the only one filming, so I'll have to do it and then kind of show you guys what I got going on. I'll show you guys the trans brace back there. It looks like it should line up with some holes, but we'll see what's going on. It should work though, so if not, we'll make something work. We'll drill it out or we'll do whatever we need to do to get that thing in there. So yeah, I'll keep filming today and we'll keep on going with this thing. All right, guys. So I might have skipped a little bit of what I did, kind of forgot to film and just got busy throwing this thing in there. But I got the motor in the truck, as you guys can see. Get ready to torque down the engine mount bolts, which obviously are there. You got your adapter plate there. You know, there's videos of that stuff online. This adapter plate has a little thing in there. It has a little ridge you can kind of see. So I use grade 8 washers, 2 grade 8 washers. Stacked on top of each other to make sure it gets over that little bump. Some people grind it down. I just don't really like doing that. It kind of takes away from the strength of it. But yeah, I'm going to torque those down 70 foot-pounds. Probably put a little Loctite on there. But yeah, you can see kind of how it sets. So it does fit in there pretty good with these 1-inch setback plates. You're going to have plenty of room, you know, in front of the truck here in between the radiator and the fan. And you still got some room back there in the rear of the engine bay as well. So it fits pretty good. Obviously I converted this 5.3 over to carbureted, so it's got a little bit less stuff, but you can see the coils clear real well. One tip, probably if you have an engine leveler, you're gonna have to turn it sideways to get this in here. If not, this will constantly hit right here on the firewall, and you won't be able to get the motor in there. So I turned it sideways and it went in there pretty good. Got my transmission jack on the back end of this thing to hold that level where it needs to go and hold the tranny up there while I put it in. So now I'll be able to torque these down and put the transmission brace in, and I might have to drill some holes to get that transmission brace to work. But hey, we'll figure it out one way or another, and we'll keep on going. So, with this T56, here's what you're gonna need to do. Obviously right here are the holes where your trans brace for your stock Chevy goes across. There's a bunch of different holes here. They're all about the same size, so you could probably use whatever if you needed to adjust it. But it looks like this trans brace for the T56 actually matches the original holes that I had for my 5-speed in here. So I'm going to be able to reuse those. This is a side mount for the T56 that goes on the side up over here. You're not going to need that, or I'm not going to use it. I don't know how I would hook it up anyway, so I'm going to get rid of that. But the trans mount you are going to need is this one right here. So it just goes right onto the bottom of the transmission like that. This hole will go through your stock trans mount, which is right here. Sorry, I'm trying to film and do all this, but it goes right through your stock trans mount hole, and it actually looks like it lines up perfect with those holes. So that one's gonna go right up there like that. You're gonna bolt it up with these 13mm bolts, and yeah, you should be good to go for your trans mount. So I'll go ahead and do that, and I'll show you guys what it looks like. All right, so yeah, that couldn't have gone any easier, honestly. That was like it was meant to have a T56 on it. So as you can see, there are your transmission bolts here and here, and those mount right up perfectly. And that lines up with the bolt that drops down through there through the T56. Perfect, I mean, no problems at all. These were the stock holes that were used on the trans brace when the truck was in here, and those bolts fit perfectly, and they line up with that just how they're supposed to. So the next thing you're going to notice, obviously, is this shifter location. So here's where the T56 shifter sits, and way up there where that hole is where the stock 5-speed went. The bench seat in this truck literally sits right about there, right on the inside of this. It's going to be really tight. I don't know if I'm going to be able to use a bench seat with it. I might have to convert it over to bucket seats, but hey man, I'm going to cut a hole and I'm going to see if it works. You know, I'm going to see what I can do. So if not, I might have to get some bucket seats, but oh well, it's a good excuse to get some new seats. So but yeah, this trans brace fits perfect, so you guys shouldn't have any problems if you guys are going to try and do this swap. Just save all your original hardware and it should mount right, bolt right over, you know, no problem. So I'm going to cut this hole, I think, next, or try and mount the rest of this up, and we'll keep going. All right, guys, so I didn't cut that hole next. What I decided to do was come and do the rest of the engine, get everything wired up. For this motor, I used the MSD 6010. And this is my wiring harness for it, so I just ran all those wires and everything. I figured to close this video, I just kind of show a few more things that you guys are going to need to do. You're going to need to hook up your heater hoses. This has two coming in here, two going out here. One's larger, one's bigger. I actually don't know if I have this one right or not. This is what I believe is the cold side. This is the hot side coming off the motor. I don't know which one is which in there. So if one of you guys knows out there, maybe leave a comment and let me know if I got those backwards. But that hose fit that one, and that one was a little smaller. So I don't know, that's the way I did it. You know, you guys are gonna have to figure out what to do with your alternator. This is actually the 5.7 alternator that came in this truck. And what I did is this little hole right here in the alternator, not in the bracket, but in the alternator, was just a little bit too small. So I just drilled it out and it actually fit perfect. So I didn't have to use the 5.3 alternator, and I could use the stock one with this truck. So that means I could use the stock plug and the wire there without having to put a resistor in. If you guys use the 5.3 alternator, you guys will have to wire in a resistor, and I just didn't feel like doing that. So if you shim it and put a washer on the outside of it right there like I did, it makes it so it's not twisted at all either way, and it lines it up really well. I put a belt on there and everything, so it's really right where the other one sat. So hopefully that works. If not, I'll go ahead and put the 5.3 in there, but I figured I'd give that one a try. Also, for some reason, I cannot get my ignition to work for my starter, so I'm probably gonna have to wire in something different. As you can see, I've been working on that there. I don't know if I have an open circuit somewhere, or I don't know what happened, but it worked on the other truck, but for some reason I can't get the key to turn the starter over. So I did hook it up to a battery. Starter turns over, you know, the crankshaft turns over, so the starter engages the flex or the flywheel fine, but it won't, I can't get the key to do it. So I'm gonna have to figure out what I want to do there. You know, there's a few other things I'm sure I'm forgetting. If you guys have questions, just leave it in the comments. Really, it's not a terrible swap. There's just a lot of little things you guys will have to do, and you guys will find them. Like for instance, this right here. So this is your power steering, obviously. You got your lines going in, and this is the stock 5.7 lines that came on the truck, and they thread right into the 5.3. It's the same thread and everything, and they work perfect. The only thing I had to do was trim the return line a little bit shorter because it was too long, and it worked no problem. So other than that, you guys shouldn't have a big deal with this swap. It seems like it's going to be really cool. I already really like the way it looks and stuff, and you know, simple because it's carbureted, so I like that. You know, the last thing I got to do is cut the hole for the T56, and then I'll have to have my drive shaft. I'm probably going to order a new chromoly drive shaft, maybe aluminum. I'm not sure what I'm going to go with yet, but yeah, do your research, guys, and you guys shouldn't have any problems. If you guys like the video, smack that thumbs up button. You know, leave me a comment if you guys have questions. I try to answer comments as much as I can. But yeah, other than that, hope you guys enjoy the video, and hope the swap goes good for you if you guys are planning on doing it. So take it easy, guys, and let me know if you guys have any questions.